There's nothing more important to Catholic parents than passing on the treasures of the Catholic faith to our kids. So it's a thrill to have educator and Catholic mom Amy Brooks with us today to share some simple methods for teaching the faith to your children. Stay with us.
Welcome to Homeschooling Saints, the podcast that helps you create the homeschool you love for the people you love. Our host is Lisa Mladinich, a Catholic life coach, TV host, best-selling author, and an instructor at Homeschool Connections.
Before we get started, remember to subscribe to this podcast so you never miss an episode. And if you're watching on YouTube, click the bell to join our channel. Hello and welcome. I'm Lisa Mladinich, your host, and today I'm excited to welcome Amy Brooks to talk about teaching the faith to your children. Amy Brooks is the author of Be Yourself, a journal for Catholic girls, and Be Yourself, a journal for Catholic boys. Amy has an MA in history and a BS in psychology, and before becoming an author, she taught at the secondary level in the Archdiocese of Philadelphia for 14 years. She taught a variety of subjects including church history, world history, introduction to psychology, and others. And she always took the opportunity to make the Catholic faith relevant to her students. In fact, the faith was also relevant to Amy as an athlete, as a coach, and as a grad student. So she's now a Catholic speaker, a content creator, and business owner. She lives with her husband, Matt, and their 3 children in a suburb of Philadelphia. And you can find out more about Amy and her original resources at prayerwinechocolate.com. That's in the show notes, and catholicinfluencers.com. It's so nice to have you back. To see you again, Amy. You haven't been on this program before, but welcome to the show.
Hi, Lisa. So good to see you.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
Before, so it's great to see you again and reconnect.
Yeah, we were just chatting. We ran into each other several years ago at a Women in the New Evangelization conference, and Amy had her books out, her journals for young people and everything. It was just beautiful. So it's really great to have you, and we'll talk about those in just a bit. But if you could just kind of set the context for us, what's our basis as Catholics for understanding the family as the ideal place for religious education?
Well, I mean, the family is just where we get our idea for how the world works and what to expect in life. I think of mealtime. You know, when you're growing up, if your family eats dinner in front of the TV, or if your family eats dinner around a table, that's your set. You're set for what's normal. You know, this is your view of what's normal or what is expected in life. So, you know, just like mealtime, if your faith life is discussed, talked about, stressed as important, then you're setting the tone for your children and what they expect out of life as an adult. So our family is just where we learn what it means to be human, what it means to be a daughter of God, a daughter of your parents, a son of God, a son of your parents, and just a lot of what we take for granted, we learned in the family setting. So if we stress the importance of God and his law and his love and his mercy and his forgiveness, then we will go out in the world and think that those things are important. And if we never discuss them, then, you know, that's going to affect us when we leave the nest, so to speak. So.
Yeah. And I love Deuteronomy 6, I believe it is, where it says, teach your children as you rise and as you walk by the way, and all these things. Like, it actually says something like drill these things into your children. And it says, and when they are old, they will not depart from it. There's a way of weaving together a foundation, as you said, their view of the world that happens so naturally that even for non-homeschoolers, all you folks listening out there that are kind of curious about what we do or thinking about homeschooling, that there's something that happens in the home that can't happen at school. It's sacred, it's primordial, it's spiritual. It's just lovely. I love the picture that you painted of just kind of the way that we live together and love together.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's so good. So a lot of parents, they'll get really nervous about teaching the faith. Like I grew up in a household where the faith was lived, but it was not verbally taught. I knew next to nothing. And what was being taught in the parish was pretty watered down too. And so a lot of parents come into raising children not knowing their faith very well, and they're kind of nervous. So what are some common misconceptions you would say that keep us from confidently passing the faith on to our kids? And, what would you advise?
So I would think some misconceptions are definitely that there's this idea in the world that holiness is a personality type. And yeah, so I get the impression from different families that they think that if they don't have a fit into a certain personality type, that they can't confidently talk about faith because they're afraid of being a hypocrite or a fraud. And what is great to maybe discuss more in our circles is that saints are so different in personalities. I heard a priest once talk about Padre Pio, and he knew Padre Pio personally. And he told the story that one time somebody asked Padre Pio if the stigmata hurt. And Padre Pio's response was, "What do you think the good Lord gave them to me for decoration?" He was sarcastic. So we we think of, the veils and the piety, but saints were real people and they got annoyed with people. Like I love to talk about Saint Therese, the little flower, how there was this one nun that was so torturously annoying and how she, said, okay, I want to run away every time I see her, but is that what Jesus wants? What can I do to interact with this person who annoys me? So I think that we need to talk about the humanity and the variety of personalities in saints. I think I remember Father Larry Richards talking about Pier Giorgio and how he smoked a pipe. We don't picture and I think that we need to talk about that more so that people who are, nervous about being confident. And another thing, my 6-year-old this morning said, "Who was the first prophet?" to my husband. And we're both Googling it. We don't know everything. And we have to be okay with that and say, "What? Who?" It's Abraham, by the way. But neither of us knew that off the top of our heads. And we have been educated in the faith for many years.
Yeah.
I just said to my husband, "What a great question he asked. 6-year-old, who's the
Mm.
first prophet?" So
Yeah, so good.
it's okay to not know everything, and it's also important to stress that holiness is not a personality type. We're all called to it, even if we're sarcastic or petulant or, so.
No, I love that. Thank you so much, because I think sometimes we and our children grow up with beautiful religious images, and you see like the image of Our Lady with her hands outstretched, and these pious plaster images are representing spiritual realities. They are not representing, on the whole, personalities. It's more about spiritual submission or, the eyes on God kind of an attitude. But those are interior dispositions. These people got their hands dirty working, whether it was picking up lepers off the street like Mother Teresa did. And she could be very tough, by the way. I knew somebody in a parish in Brooklyn where we lived many years ago who worked in one of her hospices for AIDS patients long ago. And he finally got his chance to have a one-on-one interview with her, and he started whining about his troubles. And she pulled his hand towards her, slapped him, like how he described it. He may have been exaggerating, but placed this thing rather firmly, this blessed miraculous medal, in his hand and said, "Give this to your wife and pray for her." And then dismissed him because she didn't have time for whiners. She just didn't. And so many of the saints have had really strong, driven personalities, and all sorts of personalities, as you've said. And I love too that you Googled something, like you could show your child that I may not always have the answers, but the answers are there to be found. And I may not even always know where to look for them, but they're there and we can seek them. So thank you for all of that. It was just so good. So anything else you want to say about that? And then I'd love to hear some of your basic principles for us to kind of rest in or grow into for teaching our children the faith.
I honestly, I looked up the word principles this morning too. I was like,
Yeah,
okay,
it's so,
fundamental
yeah,
truth.
exactly. What do we mean
Yeah,
by this word, right?
right, right. And I think that you know, it's funny. I was a teacher and we had a lot of in-service days and a lot of them went, in one ear and
Hmm.
out the other. But one thing I remember is that never hesitate to plant the seed because especially my background in education is with older children. So there was kind of this envy or just admiration that for first grade teachers, they could really see what they taught, at the end of the year. A kid could not read and then they could read. So in my experience teaching 12, 13, 16, 18-year olds, we don't know, we can't measure it that way, but we were told to just plant the seeds of faith, because you never know what's going to grow 5 years, 10 years down the line. And I always found comfort in that. We're planting seeds. We may not see the flower blossom, but that doesn't mean it's not going to. And that doesn't mean what we're doing isn't incredibly important. And
Yeah.
I also talk about, the basis of leadership is the example that we set. So our example is so important. And I'm really trying to instill that idea, that thought in my 11-year-old now, that the little kids look up to you. So if you're excited about something, they're going to get excited about something. If you're acting like it's stupid or not cool, they're going to pick up on that immediately and they're going to imitate that. So as parents, we set an example, and I think that that's really important. And I think a lot of us, I don't know who's listening to this podcast, but yes, we go to confession. Yes, we go to mass. But when we come home, are we forgiving? Are we working on our own patience and kindness? Or are we judgmental? We're setting an example there. And I think it's really important that we show that we are a constant work in progress. Are we striving towards sainthood? Are we recognizing when we stumble and fall? And they need to see that too. You know, we
Yeah,
need
I
to,
love that.
yeah.
Yeah, I love that because it allows them to be human too. We're not, and they see the integration of your faith, that you're learning it, that you're walking it out, that you're having access to the sacraments. And yes, most of our audience is Catholic and many very devout in their sacramental lives. So they know this, but it's always good to hear that what they are doing is setting a powerful example. It's also bringing graces into the home. But it's really good to let them see, not us at our worst all the time by any means. Of course, we want to be always trying to be at our best for our kids, but to see what we do when we fail and how we keep going because of the mercy of God and the room that makes for them to be able to forgive themselves and each other.
Yes. And hopefully forgive us.
Yes. Yeah. I was wondered when Teresa was little, like, what's she going to say to her psychiatrist someday? Anyway, yeah.
It's real. It's real,
It really is real. So what else do we need to think about? We want to stay humble. We want to be learners. We want to set good examples. What are some of the kind of typical teachable moments or opportunities that you see in family life? Are there any special ones for you that you kind of celebrate or make note of in an intentional way in your family?
Yes. I mean, children are, such sponges and they're learning through play. And it's so wonderful. When I started blogging, I came into contact with so many things out there that are just ideal for children today. We're surrounded by books, that like last night, my two 6-year-olds, one is sounding things out, one cannot read at all. So I am embracing this time where they love me reading to them.
Yes.
So they went to pick books, and we have so many books that are faith-based. So one came back with a little like baby Bible, and they wanted me to read these pages. And the other one came over with this saint book, or actually it's God's Superheroes. It's an OSV book,
Nice.
which I really enjoy learning and reading.
Yeah.
So, first we read, my daughter's like, read mine first, and it was a lot about prophets. That's probably where that question came from this morning was
Mm.
Elijah the prophet and then Elisha the prophet. And then we started reading, okay, you can pick a couple saints. We're not reading this whole book. And they picked St. Michael. And even I was just so interested in, the different, don't know, their monasteries or churches and how they put them on the map and they're equidistant from each other. And if you trace them, it looks like the sword of St. Michael and how they
Oh
were
my
built
goodness.
upon old pagan temples, but now, and it symbolizes how Michael fights for God, and now they're dedicated Christian houses of
Wow.
worship or monasteries. We never stop learning, and if it
Mm.
fascinates us, they see our interest and our attention being sparked. And as an educator, that's so important. It's so important to get excited about what you're teaching about. If you're authentically and genuinely interested, then that's going to make a greater impression and just be
Yeah.
an overall better experience for everyone.
Yeah, I love that. And I remember when I was first teaching the faith in my parish, my daughter was the age of your twins. She was 6 years old. It was first grade catechism, and I got roped into it. I wasn't asking to help out at the parish, believe me. I was much too involved in my own things. But when I went in there and started to teach them, it was just this remarkable experience of I had to learn in order to teach. And just experiencing them and all their myriad of remarkable questions really helped to ignite my own curiosity. Seeing the world through children's eyes can give us such a fresh appreciation for everything from the natural world to just what it is to be a child and to think of ourselves as children of God. So just would love to know, and we all come from somewhere and we all had religious upbringing. What has surprised you as a parent about passing on the faith to your children?
Um, hmm. So I just love that I am in a world where we can take out a puzzle and it's a saint puzzle, and they love that. And I because of what I do, I get these things like Saintly Heart has these letters and these, you put the letter next to the saint and then you connect the alphabet. And I just love seeing my children enjoy these things. We have access right now in the present moment, things my parents never had access to, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
my son, there's something called Voyage Comics. I love Voyage Comics. They have a
Mm-hmm.
comic book about Blessed Carlo, and they have a whole series. It's called Finian, the Finian series, based on all of those places that are dedicated to Saint Michael that form that sword on the map. So it's fantasy, but it's based on faith. And they have, oh my goodness, they have like Catholic superheroes. It's just so great. And myself, I was never a big reader, but luckily my son likes to read. And then what is really popular right now are the graphic novels. So having these like Voyage comics that are set up that way, um, you know, that's what they gravitate to. But this is a Catholic faith filled, incredibly well done artwork in it. To have these things to hand to him, and they're not corny, they're not cheesy. And yeah, he really really enjoys them. So I just feel like, it's funny. I took my children to somewhere on the 4th of July. It was a colonial home, and they were reading the Declaration of Independence. And I told my parents, I was like, oh, why don't you come and meet us there? And my dad was like, well, that's what they go to school for. They learn in school. Like we come from a different, um, he grew up in Philadelphia. There was a really solid school system there that was Catholic school system. St. John Newman started it. We're blessed, but we don't realize how to me, I'm like, well, I enjoy teaching them and I enjoy learning with them. But he comes from a generation where that was separate, at least in the environment, the urban environment that he grew up in. So, I'm not going to correct him. I mean, he's 70 years old, but I just love this. We're all learning
Mhm.
and we're all experiencing it together. So I just think that's interesting that his generation or whatever environment that he grew up in separated it. But he doesn't realize, he learned the faith from his own mother and he passed it down to us. So we teach
Mhm.
without knowingly educating, you know. So
Yeah. Yeah, fantastic. I love that idea of just kind of journeying together to learn together
mhm.
and to even step into another time when everybody believed in God and we can talk about the differences in culture and all of that. Such rich opportunities to share growth and kind of a pilgrimage even together. We're going to take a short break to hear from our wonderful sponsors at Homeschool Connections. We are here with Amy Brooks talking about teaching the faith to your children. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Walter Crawford.
And I'm Maureen Whitman.
We are the co-founders of homeschoolconnections.com and proud sponsors of the Homeschooling Saints podcast,
which is here to help you homeschool more joyfully, more easily, and more effectively.
We want to thank you for listening.
And we invite you to check out our courses at homeschoolconnections.com.
And now, back to our program.
All right, we are back with Amy Brooks talking about teaching the faith to your children. Let's just dip back into a little bit of this modeling the faith in our homes. Was there anything else that you wanted to touch on there, Amy?
Yes. I remember growing up, my family in our dining room, we had a picture of Jesus with his Sacred Heart. And that was just such a good thing to have in our home. And it's funny. At one point, my brother, every time he walked by it, he was like blessing himself. So I don't know what was going on there, but something was going on. My dad said he must hear a lot of sirens, but we did live in the city. But it was provoked or inspired by that image. And behind us, we got these from the Sacred Heart Enthronement Network. I think they will give them to you for free, but we gave the suggested donation of $40 and they sent us these things. And I don't remember our family enthroning in a formal way, but it came with prayers to enthrone our home. And I just thought, as I look back on my own childhood, we had that image. And then eventually we started praying. After our Grace Before Meals, we prayed this Most Sacred Heart of Jesus prayer almost every night as a family. So we created this prayer space in our dining room. And we have a really small home. So, just having this image here and this space where I make sure it's not cluttered, this like one space in our house that's not cluttered. And when there is clutter, I'm quick to remove it. And I remember when I set it up, it was a couple years ago and I was all done. I watched my son like go and sit by it with a journal or some kind of holy book. And I was like, oh, no way. It was almost like God was like winking at me, like you did the right thing, because it was amazing. So just having those images and holy spaces are so significant. And I think as moms and as wives, we kind of wonder, all the things that we do, does it even matter? And God is like, yes, it does. It does matter.
Yeah. And sometimes we need to ask for that encouragement. Sometimes if we've been working really hard and we're not seeing fruits, we might just say, Lord, I need a little encouragement. And maybe we'll see something like that. Sometimes when I'm talking with somebody that I love who's left the church or whatever, I'll just say, Lord, show me what you're doing in this person. And they'll say something or respond to something in a way that's unexpectedly beautiful or sweet or absolutely a sign of grace working. And so, yeah, I love that you pointed that out, that God gave you that little God wink, inspired your son to take that action before your eyes.
Yeah. Yeah. And I just look at, These things that we do, that we commit ourselves to, like just praying grace before meals it has such an impact on us as we grow up and we start our own families. And if that was something that we consistently did in our homes as children, we will take that with us, I think. And but there also comes a time where we're in our own home where we have to make a decision. Like, is this going to be something that we do? Is this important? Are we going to pray before we eat? Are we going to get together at least one meal a day and say grace before meals?
Yeah.
And we kind of have to say, this is going to be what we do. And then when other people come into our home, or when we celebrate a holiday out of our home, are we going to speak up and say, let's pray, let's pray before we eat. Let's come together in prayer. And I think that's really important. And then my dad, not my dad, my husband was blessing one of our children with holy water in church once. And a priest saw him do that. And he stopped and said, as a parent, you have the authority to bless your children. And that is like a big deal. Like, we don't really have, priests have the authority to bless the people in front of them. But a parent blessing their child is an authority that is given by God. And that conversation really impacted my husband. And now, before all three of our children go to bed at night, he gives them a blessing. And I think he was empowered by that conversation. So, and so I encourage, my husband and I have talked about that. He shared that conversation. I watch him bless our children. And I encourage other parents to do that at night, before they go to bed. And I can say what my husband says. He just puts a sign of the cross on their head. Is that God bless and protect my son, keep him good, safe, and holy. Protect him from all evil. And that's like it. That's it. It's not long, but it's meaningful. And even I think my oldest will say, can you send Dad in to get his blessing? And he's like 11. Yeah.
Yeah. And we can bless them from afar even. I know that my daughter's in her 20s now, and I may not have exactly the same authority over her as an adult. I'm not really sure about that, but I know that I always blessed her as a child, and Charlie did too. And I will pray for her at a distance. I kind of know the direction of where her job is, and I may just stop to pray over her and over her environment, because I know that that's part of my role. That's, we're helping to shepherd them along, and our prayers matter. The prayers of parents are really sacred to God.
Yes. Yes, our prayers are very powerful. So it is nice, though, when God gives us that little peek.
Yes.
They do matter. They are powerful. But, I wear a miraculous medal, and I always had one on my keychain. And then when I wrote about wearing the miraculous medal for my blog, because I went to the Miraculous Medal Shrine and I wanted to do this gift guide because they had a gift shop, and the president of the Central Miraculous Medal Association said, well, you're only going to write one blog post. And he really motivated me to really just write a blog post about the miraculous medal. Nice. And in my research, I learned that God promises, Mary said, we will get more graces if we wear it around our neck. And for years, I had gone to this miraculous medal shrine and and I'm like, wow, what am I doing? I'm wearing one around my neck. And from that point on, I wear one, and we get these special graces. So, and I really do think ever since I started wearing this, I've kind of seen God's hand in my life a little bit more clearly. So,
wow, that's beautiful. I love to hear that. Our Lady is such a good mother. And this idea of spiritual sight, that as we mature, we do see more and more. It's like our sight's just improving over time. And there's a saying where people will say seeing is believing, but actually the spiritual reality is that believing is seeing, that it takes that act of faith. And sometimes that's wearing a blessed sacramental that helps us to be more disposed to receiving graces. Because those blessed sacramentals, by the the way, grace at meals, for those of you who haven't read up on this, is also a sacramental of the church. Blessed objects, like prayer cards and medals and things like that, a scapular. These things all help us to enter into the prayers of the church, the graces that are called down from heaven by the prayers of the church. So it is significant. They're not magic objects or lucky charms. People will sometimes mock Catholics in that way. That's not what it is. It's like you're holding Our Lady's hand. It's very personal and relational, and it has to do with grace.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so good. So do you mind if I just ask you any more favorite resources you'd like to share? And I'd also really like you to tell us about the journals that you created for children. But let's hear what you recommend for sparking this kind of learning and richness in the home with our kids.
Yes. So I really invite everyone listening and watching to go to CatholicInfluencers.com. It is a website that I own, but it is really a community of Catholic creators and authors. And if you go there, we actually do give a free gift catalog, and it is separated by age, like, babies to age 2, ages 3 to 5, preschool years, young children, tweens and preteens. And then it even goes into women and men and priests, and you can get that catalog for free. And it's over 30 Catholic creators or Catholic businesses and authors all came together from our community and put that together last year. So you can get that for free. It's a great resource to have. And as a parent, as a godparent, I really love that there are all of these incredible choices that I can send my goddaughter, send my godson, give to my children so that they can play mass. Get them a play mass kit. The boys love that. They love their mass kits. And that's so beautiful. Like to see them, Mom, and they're turning on church music using YouTube or the TV, and to play the entrance hymn, and they're making the cross to carry, and they're,
That's amazing.
Allow them to really have these. I mean, we all have toys in our house, and we have young kids. We might as well have these toys that, my daughter has always loved playing with wooden blocks. Well, we add to the wooden blocks, the saint blocks, saintly heart. But all of these people, whether they're creating toys or writing books for children, we have so many of them in our community. So we just started this new website. We have a search bar now. So you can look, toys, and then all the people that make Catholic toys will come up. And we actually have like a shortcut. We have a shop page that has 12 Catholic shops, and then plus we have that free catalog right there. And we have a Facebook page. It's called Catholic Shopping Bag, and you can follow Catholic Shopping Bag, and we share different things there every day. I mean, I was listening to a podcast, Brendan Gotta Be Saints, and he was interviewing Kendra. Is that Kendra from Catholic All Year? And she was like, we live in a golden age right now of Catholic resources. And I just couldn't agree with her more. There really is so many things out there that you can give. And I love giving them to my godchildren, because if their parents aren't very devout or practicing, it's like, well, this is a really cute bib that has grace before meals written on it. So reminding their parents, look, what does this say? Oh, we should pray this. It's like a gentle nudge for the adult. So yeah, I highly recommend coming to CatholicInfluencers.com and perusing the website and just seeing how God works so differently with so many different people. You'll find something that matches your personality or what your family is going through. And I mean, just even home decor is so different from Granny for Grandma's house. There are some really lovely modern ways to decorate your home and invite and have the faith displayed. So
wonderful,
yes.
Wonderful. Okay, so tell us a little about your journals before we start to wrap up.
So I wrote a journal for girls first. It was called, the title is Be Yourself, a Catholic journal for girls. I'm like, I always wondered if it's a journal for Catholic girls. But anyway, it's called Be Yourself. And the reason why it's called Be Yourself is because when I was in like the middle school age, that adolescence where your body's changing and your friends become so important and your peers' approval is really sought and hoped for. I didn't fit in at all with these girls that I wanted to fit in with. I loved soccer. All these great girls were on the soccer team, and I just thought we had a lot in common, but I didn't really gel with them and I felt left out. And what we know as an adult is that everybody kind of feels left out at that age in some capacity. But I
That's
just
right.
really felt alone. And I went to my mom and I was like, I don't understand why these girls don't like me. And she said, just be yourself. And she walked away. But I'm the oldest of 5. She probably had a baby on her hip, another kid calling her for something. And she walked away and I thought, I don't know what that means. I don't know who that is. How do
Great
I know
point.
who I am? So this journal is what I needed. The saintly advice that I needed. And it's also combined with, when I was in 7th grade, we loved to pass around these books where we wrote down our favorite TV shows, our favorite actors, our favorite songs, and things like that. So it incorporates those fun things that a 12-year-old likes, but it also has saintly advice. So there's 6 or 7. God, this is terrible. This is my book. There's saint letters from the saints that give advice.
Oh.
The advice that I needed. And I had the idea for the book years ago, and I just wrote it in the back of my journal. But at the time I was teaching, and we don't have any time.
Yeah.
It was just an idea. But then when I started blogging, I met a publisher, and I thought, look, let me pitch this book. And Jerry Winley Doust, he owned a small publishing house at the time. So it was first published with him, but then he sold his business to Our Sunday Visitor. So they're the current publisher.
Nice.
But the saints pages are letters to these girls. And it's just let me tell you what you should worry about and what you shouldn't worry about.
Wow.
And it's great that you're exploring these activities and talents, but when they start to stress you out, that's not good. You are God's daughter, and that's who you are. So don't really identify yourself too much as a musician or an athlete. Yes, you might have these talents, but they don't define you. When they start stressing you out, that's not what God wants. He wants them to give you these things so you can serve him in a unique way, joyfully. But when they start stressing you out, you need to look at Jesus and say, help, and let him help you. That's St. Catherine of Siena's lesson. But then, like Mother Teresa said, serve people one at a time. Don't worry about numbers. Start with the person closest to you. And I thought that is the greatest advice.
Exactly.
So we tend to be very anxious and stressed. And this book will allow girls to get to know themselves as a unique individual, as someone who's unique and unrepeatable, but in a way that God sees them, so they can celebrate where they are in this moment, of adolescence, and find happy things, find joyful things, but also get the solid advice that they might need at this time.
Okay. And there's also one that's crafted specially for boys. Oh my goodness. So we'll have links to those so that people can find them. Oh, that's pretty. For those of you watching on YouTube, just saw some very pretty artwork there being held up on the Be Yourself journal. One for girls, one for boys. So nice. Journal for Catholic boys, journal for Catholic girls. Excellent. We'll get a few more links in the show notes for you folks, because we've mentioned a lot of resources. What would you like to take us out with, Amy? There's so many options, and our families have all, as you mentioned, our kids can be stressed even when it looks like everything's okay on the outside. What thoughts are kind of lingering for you as we start to wrap up?
I would say try to find an adoration chapel and make it a point to go there with your children. And I think what held me back at one point, I thought if I went, I had to go for an hour. it's better to go for 15 minutes than not go at all. So if you can go for an hour, good, but don't not go because you can't go for an hour. And bring your children, because God speaks in the silence, and there is no silence in our world. The phones, the age that we live in is so convenient and fast, and we have all these things. We have a lot of noise at our fingertips and a lot of things trying to take our attention away from God. So I find adoration chapels are such a gift, because they're a place where it's normal to not be looking at your phone. It's normal to kneel or sit in silence. And we have to nourish and cultivate and teach the importance of silence so that we can hear God's voice. So that's what I would say is something that is important. And it's not something that we're teaching in the home. It's just something where we're saying, okay, we have to trust God, and we have to bring them to God, and we have to trust that in the silence, if they learn to listen to that God will teach them and say things to them that we don't know they need to hear, but He knows they need to hear.
Well, I love that. That's such so wise. We do what we can. We stay transparent and humble with our kids. We keep persevering, but ultimately we surrender it to Him, because there is so much about their walk with Him that's unknown to us, the hidden work of the Holy Spirit, as we like to say, where God is moving. And we are continually entering into what God is doing in our children's lives as we interact and love them and pray for them and all of that. Everybody, we're talking with Amy Brooks. She's at prayerwinechocolate.com and catholicinfluencers.com. Amy, thank you so much. This has been rich. It's been reassuring too. I love the simplicity, even in amidst the abundance of resources, that we can all kind of relax. We want to be intentional, but we can be real with our kids. We don't have to be plaster saints to be able to pull it off. In fact, that wouldn't even be recommended. That's art. That's not life.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you, Amy, so much. It's been a joy to have you with us today.
Thank you. I really enjoyed being here, and I'm so thankful that I had this opportunity to talk to you and to hopefully share some things that help others. So.
Yeah, we'd love to have you back again sometime. Everybody, thank you so much for listening. We are praying for you. Please pray for us too. God bless you, and have a beautiful day in the Lord. And that's our show for today. Our program is sponsored by homeschoolconnections.com. Be sure to subscribe to Homeschooling Saints and leave us an honest review. God bless you, and thank you for joining us.